So the regional qualifier has started in the World Championship 2023 in Master Duel, and it just hit midnight here, so I played 2 matches. I won them both, so I'm at a 2000 rating. I will not be going for first place. I don't have the time to grind for 72 hours, but the deck that we're using is FLOOWANDEREEZE. The deck list video will be linked in the description. This deck has kind of guided me through season 17, got me to Diamond 1, got me to Duelist level max or World Championship qualifier max. But let's go ahead and take a look at these matches in the World Championship qualifiers. Alright, so to start things off, we actually won the coin toss and therefore we're going first. This was the first match that we played. Opening hand can technically unbrick with this pot of extravagance, otherwise we're on nothing. Thankfully, we do draw a bird and Robina at that, so that means we can now terraforming for map. The opponent had an interruption, but I'm guessing it was Max C, not an Ash Blossom, so we get the perfect turn 1 setup. And I think once we reveal the Robina, they were probably on tier limit with no way to out the D-Fissure, so they just end up scooping. And the players that we were going against, Diamond 1s, what do you know? They've all been waiting for stage 2 to start. So let's get on to the next match. Alright, this next match is pretty intense. You can't check people's deck lists in this event, so just FYI, our opening hand is half decent if we can draw a bird with a pot of extravagance. The opponent was on Ash Blossom. Their screen was lighting up whenever I tried to do a search, but not for doing other things, which indicates that they're not on Maxi to me. This, we do draw into a bird, so thankfully they didn't Ash the pot, otherwise we would have definitely lost, I think. And then the terraforming here, they opt to let resolve as well, and we grab map. So now with map, when I was doing all this activation, their screen wasn't lighting up, which indicates that they don't have a Maxi, unless they're being really crafty with toggling their switch on and off to make me think they have an Ash Blossom, but I was assuming that they were on Ash. So I thought about this for a second, and I end up banishing the Eaglin because I'm like, if I can bring back Eaglin, Robina search Toucan, bring back Eaglin, normal summon Eaglin, if they Ash that because they're saving their Ash for the Eaglin to prevent me getting Empin, then I go Unexplored Wind, or not Unexplored Wind, sorry, Advent of Adventure, banish and bring Empin to hand, and then summon Toucan, target the whatever Robina or Eaglin that I banish, and then I still get the Empin on field with trap card. So that was my thinking here, trying to play around in Ash. If the opponent had Imperm, I had the Book of Moon, but obviously I don't want to waste the Book of Moon because I don't have D-Fissure up, which means if I tributed over the booked bird, I wouldn't get it back. So if I can keep map on field, it's not a problem because I just banish another Robina. But if I lose this Robina, it would be pretty bad. So the opponent lets all this resolve, and now I'm actually thinking, are they really on Ash? Because they let the Empin resolve, which means we chain block with Robina. But we have the double evenly, which are kind of dead in our hand, but we do have our engine rolling, and the opponent opted not to interrupt it. So that was actually pretty good. We set the Advent and we set the Dreaming Town, and the reason we do this and not set Book of Moon, I don't want to play too hard into an evenly matched. That's one of the positives of FLOOWANDEREEZE, is that you don't normally play too hard into evenly matched, and then of course you can put up the Apex negate, but then if they bait out the Apex negate, you have to negate something, then your board is open to evenly again. So, and if they do evenly, I just chain Advent of Adventure, banish the Empin face up, and then keep map on field, banish the Advent face down, right? So I lose almost nothing if I do get evenly here. So that's the thinking. The opponent reveals that they're on tier limits. Okay, we don't have any banished cards, so no D-Fissure or D-Shifter active. They normal summon Merly after activating Scream, and they're going to mill 6. Okay, so we're going to trigger map on the normal summon of Merly as well. And like I said, this is an intense match. You're going to check out what happens here. So off of the Scream mill, they hit 2 names, so Sharon and Rhinoheart, so that's unfortunate, but that's how tier limit goes. They're also on a big stack, so they mill grass, but they also hit the Yugioh, so they're going to mill another 5 off each deck, which isn't great. So they're going to chain their effects here now, and off of the Yugioh milling, they could potentially devastate us depending on what they mill. You've seen, if you watched my other videos before, we've seen like a mill 5 hit like 3 of our tribute monsters, our 1 of Stree, just really critical cards, which is why these cards and Runic cards suck to go up against. I mean, for FLOOWANDEREEZE, Runic isn't that bad, because if they banish them, you can always bring them back, but going to the graveyard and then they're further disrupted by the fact that you get Grave Shufflers is just so annoying, so broken. So you can see here off of the Robina, we actually opt to search DD Crow, because the Sharon is going to resolve, but whatever they're going to bring back the Rhino, pitch a card, and then whatever they dump with Rhino, we can DD Crow to prevent the further fusion. So let's see, off the mill 5, it doesn't look good for us. We lose 3 birds. Like, that's nuts, dude. And we were about to draw into a D-Fisher. That's so bad, man. That sucks. So we lose our 1 of Stree, which means we're not getting that back unless we attempt to Ryza it back to the top of the deck. The opponent gets a Grave Shuffler and they get another Rhino, so nothing activatable. So crappy mills for them, I guess, and crappy mills for us. Good mills for them, for us, if that makes sense, right? They wanted to mill these cards from us, and we wanted them to hit nothing on their end. So pretty interesting and pretty advanced gameplay coming up here. So I'm going to try to explain this. So they dump Crime, which is very interesting. They must have a really good hand to dump this, in my opinion. Or maybe that's their only tier limit card. I don't know, right? But they don't have another tier limit monster, which is good. The Sharon Fusion is going to put back 2. And they're going to bring out a Kit Kalos. Okay, everything has to be in defense mode, otherwise Empen will negate it. But looking at their graveyard, they have no other like materials to use here. So they're going to go ahead and Rhino dump. We're going to go ahead and activate Eaglin now. That priority has passed back, and sure enough, look at this play. The opponent had Ash Blossom at the start, opted to save it for their turn because they know about the interruptions here, right? That's nuts. I mean, you know, you think that this is like next level gameplay, big brain gameplay, but if they would have stopped me, like from even the Pot of Extravagance, I would have bricked, right? And I would have just had to pass her and the opponent would have OTK'd me. I wouldn't have been able to set up anything. If they would have ashed the terraforming, I wouldn't have gotten the 1 of map, and I wouldn't be able to extend like this during their turn anyways, because I still have Dreaming Town, right? So yeah, pretty interesting stuff. I don't know if this is really ends up being the right play. I mean, I think, you know, if you really think it through, I think it is the correct play for him to hold the Ash for his turn, knowing that his deck is stronger than mine if I don't put up a D-Fisher or Dimensional Shifter. But just knowing the situation, obviously he would have won the game if he would have Ashed me turn 1. So yeah, really interesting stuff. I'm like literally pointing at my brain trying to think through like the scenario of how it works. That's how crazy this stuff is. So they do end up milling, yeah, nothing, right? And then they end up dumping the Merly, which is what we're going to Shifter, and they bring Grief to hand. So special summon 1 tier limit monster from your deck, then send 1 monster you control to the graveyard with the same type or attribute. So yeah, this card is literally just like summon the tier limit name and send it to the graveyard, right? So we're going to DD Crow the Merly. So they've used 2 names, Sharon and Merly. They've got Havness left, which is why they brought Grief to hand. So right here, we're going to chain Advent. I know what the opponent is going to do because they did mill a Grave Shuffler, right? So this is, again, more of that advanced, stupid advanced gameplay from these gosh darn Diamond 1 players. They were smart. They knew not to activate the Keldo on the Merly because they were waiting for the Dreaming Town to activate, because they're going to shuffle back the Dreaming Town. So they're going to actually let this resolve and banish the Merly because they know flipping down their field is more important. So this guy knew what was up for sure, right? So you can see here on the summon of Toucan, he is not going to let me resolve Toucan to bring the Empen and bring the Empen we banished to summon it back. He is going to chain to the Toucan summon to shuffle back the trap card so I can't flip his field face down. So smart play by the opponent. I normal summon the Empen here, and at this point, you know, the opponent is on nothing in the graveyard. So I could technically go a second Empen here, but it doesn't serve any purpose. And it's more risky to put this Empen in the graveyard right now because why? My only Stree is banished, so I can't even banish this from my graveyard with Stree, let alone it being interrupted by another shuffler if they can mill some more. So I'm in a bit of a rough spot here. We're going to go ahead and resolve the effects. So again, thinking things through, what's the most useful card on my next turn? It is going to be Unexplored Winds. So that's what we go into because it's immediately usable during our next turn, even though they shuffle Trap back into our deck. So the opponent is going to go ahead and summon Elf just to get their cards into the graveyard. They can't activate Elf because of Empen, and doing this just allows them to activate Kit Kalos, off Kit Kalos mill. They are playing Seamare too, this is crazy. But they mill Sulik and they mill Heartbeat, which is actually really good because it gives them interruptions for my turn, which is really bad. So Heartbeat's going to bring back the Sulik, and then the Sulik is going to search out probably a Sharon. Yep, because I don't know, they probably can't make Baguska because they would have gone into the Ishizu discards at first. Yeah, see, so they discarded Mudora, so they get another Grave Shuffler in the graveyard here, which is really bad. And then their mill 3 off Sharon is Imperm, Perlarino, and Sulik, which they just used this turn. So dead mills, but they do get the Mudora in the graveyard. They're on 2 cards in their hand, and I don't think we know either of them. Or do we know? Oh no, they just brought a Havness to hand off the Sulik, right? So we know Havness is 1, I believe. And then they're going to fuse into Dragostapelia. It makes sense, putting back Kalos and the Havness. Dragostapelia is going to negate Empin. So now their Alpha's live for next turn. And all they can really bring back, though, is a Maxi, right? Yeah, Maxi, because their Merle's still on field. They're not going to link off and do anything else at the moment. So they set their Sulik, and I think we know they have Havness in hand, right? So we're going to go ahead and draw for turn. This Apex draw is actually very important. It's not the ideal draw, but we can work with this, right? So the game plan here, right, when you analyze this board, again, this is that, hurt your brain kind of thinking. When you're analyzing this board, you got to think, okay, he's got a Monster Negate in Dragostapelia. I can out that with the Book of Moon. He's got a Sulik that he's going to send tier limit name. I can't target this, or can I? Because Empin is negating this. I'm not sure, actually. I didn't actually bother to check when I activated Book of Moon. But assuming that we can't target this, we can't out both the tier limit names. So, the Sulik is going to be live, the Scream is going to be live. So my thinking here is, let me activate Unexplored Winds, normal summon for turn Apex by outing the Sulik, right? They're not gonna, if they don't activate this right away and try to negate something, and they don't need to negate Empin, right? Oh yeah, so Elf is live to make this untargetable because it's negated right now by Dragostapelia. So yeah, we can book it though and maybe turn this back online, but again, that's not the play. The play is, hopefully they don't activate Sulik right away, and there's no need to, right? Because the Empin is not negated. If we actually book the Dragostapelia here, it might prompt them to activate the Sulik and send and start fusion summoning. We want to prevent that. So the first play is activate Unexplored Winds. Hope the opponent does not activate Sulik, which, why would they? Are they going to negate Toucan? They could, to try to negate, or try to send Merle or Sharon and triggers fusions, right? But that's kind of a wasted Sulik. Why not wait till I summon a bird? You probably think you have game. I have 2 monster negates. How are you outing this? They know we have Unexplored Winds, right? And they know we have an Empin, I believe, as well. So we're going to go ahead and activate Unexplored Winds. Use it right away to tribute over the Sulik for the Apex. Okay? Now this is going to trigger Scream. It's going to trigger our birds to come back. And like I said, we know they have Havness in hand. We're fine with them searching off Sulik. That's not important right now. The important thing is that they ended up putting Scream on the last chain link. Because now I'm going to Apex negate it to prevent them from milling 3. And they're going to attempt, they could attempt to Havness here, chaining it directly to my on-field effect, but instead they opt to Dragostapelia negate because they want the mill 3. This is where I now decide to execute the Book of Moon after baiting out the Dragostapelia, and by doing this, I stop them from preemptively activating Sulik to start the fusion summoning. I out and negate the Scream. The search off the Sulik doesn't matter because what are they going to do? Search a Merle or a Sharon that's unusable right now, or search for another Havness. And I out the Dragostapelia with the Book of Moon, turning the Empin back online and resolving the Apex. So that play right there, literally, Chainlink 7 was literally able to play around everything that the opponent has. They're going to get the Scream Search, that's fine. Again, these are cards that are dead in their hand. They're going to be very useful next turn, but we out the opponent's interruptions, which is the important thing. Now we can use Map to summon and go into full rotation, and the opponent kind of realizes they're going to be fighting a very uphill battle, and they end up resigning. So what would we have done here is go for the Ryza play, probably put some cards back, hopefully draw into like a D-Fissure or something, but we would go for the Ryza play to put the Stree back on top, and then get Stree in rotation. They did have a Grave Shuffler that we have to out, so it wasn't like game by any means, but because we have the Unexplored Winds, they know we're going to summon Empin, they know we're going to summon back Apex and tribute over their cards, which is going to open up their field, leaving them open to big damage. And then we're going to search out Trap card, which means we're going to be able to play during their turn. If they attempt a normal summon, we've got the Map as well. So the opponent definitely wasn't out of the game, but it was going to be a very uphill battle, and they probably thought it wasn't worth the grind, and they just end up resigning. So intense match, a lot of brain power used there, and that's why after those 2 wins, I was like, yeah, that's it, man. I'm done. So that's going to wrap it up for this video, guys. Again, thank you so much for watching if you made it this far, but Quantum is out.